This is Dr.
Hello.
Katie Mayer, and this is Dr. Lindy O'Neal.
Hi, guys.
We are both small animal veterinarians. I am the host of the newsletter and podcast, Getting In. The hardest part of vet school is getting in, and a one-on-one mentorship program that helps people of all ages apply to vet school. This is called Let's Get You Into Vet School. So Dr. Lindy and I graduated from vet school at LSU in 2010, and we have been friends since, I would say, the first day, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
So we hit it off.
We're very close in birthdays, so that was an easy bond.
Yeah, we've got big birthdays coming up. Okay, so Lindy, let's just jump right in. Tell me all about your journey to vet school, what it was like for you as an undergrad, where you're from, etc.
All right. So I am from Little Rock, Arkansas. And I knew from a really young age that I wanted to be a veterinarian. I was probably 4 or 5 or 6 years old. I got a toy for Christmas, this little pet vet. You've probably all seen it, with little stethoscope and the plastic pill bottles. And I'd stuff them with jelly beans or M&Ms and play doctor. And in fact, some of the original report cards that show, my cat's name was Butterscotch and he's limping on his leg. I now have them showcased in my office because they were so special to me as a kid.
Great.
Yeah, so that's some of my decorations. So I knew from a young age, and I became super laser focused on getting into vet school. And the name of your podcast, Katie, is so perfect because the hardest part really is getting in, is marketing yourself to be the best candidate that there is. So all through high school, I focused on the sciences, getting good grades, but I wanted to have a plethora of different activities to do to put on your resume because you want to have that on your resume. Even through college, I focused on that. So not just being in the club, but being an officer in the club, showing leadership, showing initiative, showing intention. And so I was very intentional about getting into different clubs and being an officer. Maybe not be president. You don't have to go to the top, anything like that. But being treasurer or secretary, just be involved. While I was in college, I also wanted to expand my experience. So all through high school, I worked in a small animal practice. I got that job when I was like 13. I think it was probably completely illegal to work at 13, but I did it. I started in the in the kennel, went to reception, went to the assistant position, was drawing blood through high school. So, I had that experience then, continued that through college. But then I wanted to get some large animal experience, some research experience. And so I added those things to my resume, worked in our genetics lab, worked out at the farm at the University of Arkansas, and really just tried to clock those hours. Because when you start to do your application process, which is called VMCAS, right? The veterinary, what is it called? VMCAS, VIM?
It's VMCAS, but don't ask me what it stands for.
Yeah.
Application service.
So you have to type in how many hours of experience you have. So the earlier you get started on clocking those hours, you can count them. Start early. You want to have thousands of hours to, prove that you know the profession, you love the profession, you're dedicated to the profession. That'll put you at the top of the list. And so I did that. And Arkansas does not have a vet school right now. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we're actually getting two. And so at the time I was applying in the 2000s, there was no vet school in Arkansas. And so I was lasered in on LSU. At the time, they offered 9 positions to Arkansas students to get in-state tuition, which was huge because vet school costs a lot of money.
Right.
And so every day I would go online in college and I would look at the LSU curriculum. What are they requiring? What's it going to take to get in? What's the average GPA? At the end of every year when they had a class, they would post the class statistics.
Yeah, they still do.
What was the average GPA? What was the average
science GPA? Back then, average GRE, which not many schools.
Yeah, average the GRE, the biology GRE. And so all of those, I studied them and I made sure that I was there with it. I was the best student, but I made sure that I was marketable. And I think that really boded well for me. So that's kind of, did I answer your question?
Yes, definitely.
It's about me.
So just to recap, you were an out-of-state student, but you got in-state tuition at LSU. And there are many states that do not have vet schools. There are lots of vet schools coming, definitely in Arkansas, as well as like Clemson, Puerto Rico's opening a vet school. There's lots of different schools popping up in the next 2 years. But right now, and in the past, there are different programs where they offer seats to students from other non-vet school states. So there's something called the WISH program up in the Pacific Northwest, essentially, where they're promising states, obviously from that area, different seats. Even Texas Tech only takes students from Texas and New Mexico. So anytime I talk to a student that's potentially interested in that, and like, if you're from New Mexico, we are applying to Texas Tech. I don't care if you want to or not, we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so there are a lot of different programs, and you can Google them. It's not hard to find them. Now, one thing I always tell people is, like, your college advisor doesn't always know, but go directly to the vet school, because the vet schools know. Even if you're cold calling or cold emailing a vet school that's somewhat near your state or in your state, they will direct you to the place that you need to go. They will tell you about the program you need to hear about. Your college advisor may not know.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking smack about college advisors, because they do a lot and they have a ton of students, but they just don't know the niche that the vet school admissions office know about. So tiny little sidebar. Okay. So you applied to LSU. Did you apply anywhere else?
I did. Apply to 5 different schools. I applied to LSU and OSU. So LSU offered 9 positions to Arkansas students. OSU offered 1. Missouri at the time was not offering any, but I applied to Missouri. I applied to Mississippi State. They would offer one occasionally. And then I forget where else, maybe Kansas. So all the states surrounding me. I did not apply to Texas because they required their own supplemental type.
Yeah, you have to go through their own website.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do that. So I didn't apply there. I got into Oklahoma and LSU, but Oklahoma did not offer me the in-state tuition. I got in as an out-of-state student. And so for me, it was a financial decision. Plus, I thought LSU was cooler than Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I was laser focused on that my whole life. So I thought that's where I want to go.
Yeah, I love it.
Mississippi State, I'm not even sure they read my application. I got an email, I feel like the exact same day I sent it in. They were like, nope. Yeah, that didn't feel good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so easy for the computer to eliminate students these days. Like, it doesn't matter. It could be that you're uploading your essays in like PDF or rich text. It's like something isn't right, and you get an email and you're like, you're denied.
Yeah,
and
I'm like, I didn't even think you read that.
I know. Yeah. It's so crazy. Okay, so after graduation, tell me a little bit about that. So Lindy ended up in a very cool place where, strangely, a lot of LSU grads end up, and learned a lot of information very, very quickly. Tell me about that part.
Yeah, so I went to Las Vegas after graduation. I started hearing about this practice owner and his group of practices probably somewhere in my second year. I was married at the time, so I told my husband, hey, this would be a great place to go. And he was like, absolutely not. So come third year, I was still hearing about it. It sounded like a really neat place to go. And he's like, I don't know, we'll look into it. By fourth year, I decided to go to an externship. So I went and spent 2 weeks out in Las Vegas at one of the practices. And what it is it's not a corporate, but it's a practice that has a mentality. All of them grouped together have high volume, but high quality. And so you can get a lot of experience in a short amount of time. And for me, someone who wanted to come out and do general practice, I didn't need to go to an internship. That did not fit the lifestyle I wanted. But this was a great place for me to go experience a new place, meet some new people, challenge myself, but get real life experience in a lot of it. And it was really, really cool. And that group is still there, and they take a lot of students from Tuskegee, from LSU, and Missouri. Those are kind of some of the 3 hot spots. But I do recommend anyone to consider it. Call them up. You cold call them, email, I want to come do an externship. They'll get you in, and it is amazing.
See if you like it first.
See if you like it. But honestly, it was such a fun place to go. I had friends visiting all the time. You came to visit one time for Western.
For Western, that was my first vet conference as a doc, and it was so much fun. We had a blast. We went on that huge thing, that needle, and we dropped down.
Space needle,
at like right above my phone on my desk at work. That picture.
You have to send me that picture.
I'll send you that.
Yeah. So it was a great place to work. And what I loved was I was given a mentor. And I don't think it was really intentional. I don't think they knew that's what they were doing, but the hospital was grounded on that. They wanted new graduates to come in. And so they pulled new graduates in all the time. And that's because we're eager and we're willing to work. I say we, I'm not a new graduate at all anymore. But then you pair it up with this veteran who really needs these guys to pick up the pace so I can handle my cases over here, but I got to
Right.
teach you how. And so for me, that was the foundation of my love for mentoring. And I didn't even know what was happening, but
Yeah.
because I got it. And it was mentoring in a fun way, not in a do it this kind of way. It
Right.
would be, hey, I wonder if you can, I don't know. They would challenge me to do different things, but in a way that I wanted to be challenged.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. I did a lot of ER and after
Okay.
hours
That's a good
call,
way to
which
learn
kind
really
of,
quick.
yeah. And so it was great. I did ER in undergrad or in vet school as well. And so I've
Mhm.
always had this love for ER and have continued to do so, but that really made it a lot of fun. And it made it to where if I came back to Arkansas, my intent was to come back to Arkansas eventually.
Mhm.
I didn't know if I'd be a solo practitioner or by myself, but I came back with this skill set that I felt like I'd been practicing for 5 years, and I wasn't
Yeah.
scared to do a lot of things. Maybe I
Right.
was, overly confident. I don't know, but I
Well,
think it
you've
was so
always been
helpful.
confident in the best way. And I feel like that's so rare these days. People see everything online and they feel less confident in their skills. But you really just have to jump in. And once you get like once you have a couple disasters, then you're like, oh, well, this isn't as bad as that. I had a disastrous surgery, probably my first, like right after I graduated. I was doing a big pyometra on a Monday morning. They came to me from the emergency room and like everything went wrong. The dog survived, everything was fine, but it was the worst surgery ever. And just yesterday, I had a we were doing a toe amputation. It was bleeding, and like the tech from that first surgery was still there. She's my oldest tech, and she was like, "Well, it's nothing like the blood from that pyometra, like you have a couple disasters, you're like it can go much worse.
Yeah.
That one
You
lived.
you
That
have
one
to
will be
have
fine.
those things to humble you,
Yes.
and I'll just tell one story. I was fresh out of school and someone brings me this cat and they're telling me that their cat is seizuring. And I've learned some things from clients is you have to listen to what they say because they do
Hmm.
know their pet.
They know their
If you just
pets.
completely dismiss them, then you're going to miss a lot of the history. So the
Right.
history is a big important piece. So they're telling me their cat is seizuring. Okay. The other piece of that is I've learned you have to ask the right questions.
Yes. And keep
This cat
asking.
this cat, I did not ask the right questions. And so they're telling me the cat's seizuring. So I'm running blood work. I was doing ultrasounds. I looked at all these things. And finally, I was like, do you have a video by chance of the behavior?
Video
And they
changes
said, I
everything.
do. Yes. So they showed me this video of this cat in the window, flipping its tail.
Huh.
The cat was in heat.
Yeah. Has this cat been
And I
spayed?
said, I know how to fix this. We need to spay her immediately.
Right.
Fix that. But it's
Cats
simply
and heat are
keep
such a
me
strange
humble.
thing. Yeah, you have to keep asking questions. And you learn this by watching vets that know what they're doing and that like trust their clients and have good relationships with their clients. And, everybody talks about like your work culture and where you work and how it forms you. And if you feel like it doesn't fit, then you should keep looking. And so let me clarify one thing for our listeners. Okay, so vet school is 4 years. The first 2.5, 3-ish years are in class. Most of these schools, not all, but most schools, at
Mhm.
least the most traditional ones like ours. And then your last year, year and a half, you're in clinics. And in those clinics, you will be able to kind of design your schedule somewhat. You get to pick your track. If you want equine only, farm animal, mixed animal, or only exotics and small animal, something like that. So within your track, you get to choose externships. And that means you can, on your own, go out and find people to work for free as a fourth year vet student and get experience and see if that's the kind of medicine you want to practice or where you want to live or who you want to work with. And that's what you did at Las Vegas. And then after you graduate from vet school, you can either go right to work or you can do an internship year, which a lot of times ends up at a university or a big corporate clinic. But most of the time in academia, it's usually 1 year, and you can do that. Most people do that when they want to go into a residency or specialty, which is an additional 3 years, like average. So what you did is you found a place that you thought would give you like the goals that you had in mind for your first few years out. You didn't realize it, but you were getting an incredible mentorship. You were getting an incredible education, hands-on education with people that were used to teaching young vets. You were, of course, in the track that you wanted, which was general small animal medicine. And then whenever you were ready to leave, you left. And some people, I don't think realize before they get into vet school kind of that you can design these little experiences for yourself and push yourself a little bit. It's better to push yourself than to go do an externship at the clinic where you worked for 20 years. You want to go somewhere new and
I agree with that. So and I actually use mine. I host externs now, and I see a lot of them using those times to go see, do they want to work in that clinic, which is fantastic.
Right.
I actually used mine to decide, do I want to work in GP? And I just kind of chose different places to do that. So I chose and all of them are 2 weeks long. So I chose 2 weeks out in Las Vegas to see, do I want to do GP? And if so, do I like Las Vegas?
Right.
I chose one in Colorado at a band field to see, not necessarily do I want to live in Colorado. I had a friend there, but do I like corporate medicine?
Right.
So I wanted to go see what that felt like. I went to the Animal Medical Center in New York, which is like the mecca of veterinary medicine. And because I truly wanted to be a surgeon. So I went there to see what that life was like. That immediately told me, I don't want to be a surgeon. I can do surgeries without having to go that track. I feel that things are very different now, but at that time, that track to surgery was a rough road.
Oh, yeah.
Mentally, physically, financially.
Oh, yeah.
And so that 2 weeks in New York,
Like going
great
to the
time in New
army or
York.
something. How Julia did that, I don't know. But it's like
I
they break
know.
you down to build you back up.
They do. And I do have the grit for that. But also I was like, I don't have to do that to do good surgery.
That's right. And you
so
do a ton of surgeries. Lindy, as a general practitioner, does surgeries that most regular vets don't do because she said, I want to learn how to do that. You went and learned how to do that surgery. You practiced under a mentor, practiced on cadavers, and then you started doing it, which a lot of people are scared to do. So she has truly you've created the job that you want for yourself, the life that you want for yourself.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
So actually,
I did use my externship experiences at different experiences, not the same kind, but different locations, but all different. And then I did a neurology externship because we didn't have neurology and I wanted to go do something because I'm like, I suck at neuro. I need to go do this. And I still suck at neuro. So
yeah, me too. Steroids. I don't know. Ship it. Okay. So tell me, once you came back to Arkansas, you have 3 kids. You have Josh, the best husband ever. Absolutely love him. And then I know you built a house. How did you go about like your day-to-day job? I know y'all have several clinics. And then now you are so involved in like Arkansas legislature for, advocating for animals, clients, and vets. Tell me about how that kind of came about, your post-grad life.
Okay. I'm going to kind of split those into 2 different categories because I feel like my home life, that's kind of different than the organized vet med. But so when we came back to Arkansas, we'd got done a couple years out in Las Vegas, realized, hey, we probably don't want to have children out in Las Vegas. So we came back to Arkansas. I always knew I wanted to be a practice owner. And so I started fishing for that. I actually cycled through 2 other hospitals before I landed where I am now. And during those timeframes, I was having babies, building houses. We've had 3 children, built 2 houses. And so perhaps it was me who wasn't ready. Perhaps it was the hospital who wasn't ready, but the timing never matched up. Unlike you, who's been in the same practice since graduation, I've hopped around, which this day and age, can look unloyal, or am I creating the life that I want?
Right.
It could be one of the 2. I like to think that I was creating the life that I wanted because I was seeking out practice ownership. But at the time I even had some health issues during there. I got really, really sick. And so it just wasn't the right time.
Right.
But when my son was about 6 months old, I was at our state winter meeting. I was talking with a man who I'd talked with years before. And I'd even told him, I said, go find somebody else to purchase a practice. I cannot do it. And he did. But at that same meeting, I was just having breakfast with them. And they said, we'd like to take you on as a partner. I said, done. So I bought in with them at one practice. Together, the 3 of us built another ground up practice. And she is our pride and joy. This is my baby number 4. We love her. She's great. She's got state-of-the-art medicine. Building. She's beautiful. So I feel like I got to create the life that I wanted just by not settling and thinking it's going to look bad on me if I change jobs. Now, you don't want to go change jobs every 2 years.
Every single year. Right.
But that also is not an acceptable thing, but I had something I was seeking for. Again, I get laser focused. You know, I want to go to LSU vet school, done. I want to be a practice owner, done. So I get laser focused on a goal and I work towards that.
Yeah.
Now, the other piece of that you asked about is the organized vet myth. Each state and allied organization has 2 delegates to the American VMA House of Delegates.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay, think of it like your state senators. Everybody's got 2. So every state has 2, and every allied organization who meets requirements has 2. So an allied organization is AAFP, AABP, but each of those organizations, if they meet the criteria to have a seat in the House, they also have 2. So I am one of Arkansas's. Louisiana has 2. It used to be Wayne Roberson. I think it's Bob Gross now. I love them. They're good buddies. They sit right behind me in the state.
Awesome.
Become really close friends. Anyway, so within that, we discuss policy. Now, these aren't laws. It's just policy. So AVMA states we discourage decline. So what can happen now is lawmakers can look at this policy and say, well, AVMA discourages it. So we're going to use this to either ban it or say it should not be done. So they'll take policy and make laws off of it. So we really want to get the wording right. Yeah. So I've really gotten kind of hot and heavy into the AVMA stuff. Now I'm actually president of the Arkansas VMA and working on some legislation pieces regarding telemedicine and veterinary technicians and their, utilization of them, proper utilization of them, and the nomenclature surrounding them and all that kind of thing. So it's really a lot of fun.
That's so crazy because that's something that I get emails about and I've just never gotten involved with. I see those people at CE all the time every year, whether it's national people or my own delegates here. But it's just so crazy that you're so involved in it because it really makes perfect sense with your personality and just having known you all these years. It seems like this is a whole nother job.
It is. It's a volunteer position, but it's a lot of work.
It's a volunteer position. Okay. So do you do a lot of work for this at your house, like researching and stuff like that? And then obviously you're going to a lot of meetings, traveling a little bit.
Yeah, so the American VMA, I actually sit in even a higher position within that. And so I do monthly meetings for that. I've got one this afternoon.
Wow.
Monthly meetings for that. I've got 4 in person a year.
Okay.
And so that does take a lot of time.
Yeah.
But
for having a young family.
It does. Yeah. And that's, I could not do this without the support of my husband and my, business partner being accepting of me taking time off work.
Yeah.
But this is something I feel really passionate about because some of these things will directly impact the way you practice. So one of them right now is a bill that AVMA nationally we've been fighting. It's not on the state level, it's on the federal level. There's something called the Fairness to Pet Owners Act. Okay. And we have been pushing against the Fairness to Pet Owners Act. We've been going to Capitol Hill. I sit in, the senator's office and explain to him why this bill does not need to pass. And what it means is you as a consumer, if you would like to pick up your heartworm prevention over the counter, that I must write you a prescription.
Okay.
Not only if you ask for it, but I must write it for you. Now, if you'd like to fill it at my hospital, then you give it right back to me.
Right.
Okay. That's just a lot of extra work. I have to write it for you. You have to then give it back to me. That is steps that we don't want to take as small business owners. Time is money. Time is efficiency. Time is time away from that pet or my family. And so we don't need to waste time on those steps. So we're pushing against that because also that's not something that is easily digital. And so we're having to handwrite it or,
oh my gosh, so we get an email that used to be a fax, then they print it out, then they bring it to me. I have to check.
So it's just a lump in the road. And so we're fighting
and then they email it back. It's it really is. And nowadays there's so many preventatives that are safe for heartworm positive animals.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if you want to be on something, just be on something.
Just be on it. And honestly, I will give you a prescription. If you want a handwritten prescription or a written to pick it up somewhere else, that's fine. But do not make it unlawful to me to just fill at my hospital without one.
Yeah.
So that is a very tangible thing that you can, that you need to have that I want to have a voice about. Right. And honestly, I feel like this is one of those things. Everybody in politics thinks that the voice doesn't matter. And that is absolutely untrue. So you have a Louisiana delegate and they send you an email at least twice a year saying, please give me feedback on X, Y, or Z. Right. And they actually want your feedback because we discuss it on the floor.
Right. Right. Huh. Okay. I will be keeping an eye out for those emails that I've been deleting.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. That's so great. And you are making huge waves. Tiny little things make huge waves. And I always tell my students that, whether it's for your own life, for your application, like these tiny things that make you stand out, make you different, they make huge waves and they will kind of define you as a person, and you're doing a lot of good. You really are. I'm so excited
Oh,
for you.
thanks. Thanks.
Yes,
It's sometimes a very thankless job.
Yeah.
I am passionate about it.
I'm in your field and I didn't really realize what was involved.
A lot of people don't. I don't put it on my social media too often. Probably once a year I do a here's what this means kind of thing. And every time I get people that are thinking, holy cow, I had no idea.
Right.
And really, it's not that I'm encouraging everyone to participate at the level that I am, but just have your voice. Just like I would encourage anyone out there, if you're a registered voter, go vote.
Right.
I know you think it doesn't matter, but it does.
Yeah, you're right. Awesome, Lindy. Okay. Let me ask you, in general, what is if you have a student, let's say a junior in college, or someone that graduated 2 years ago and they're applying this September, what kind of advice do you have for them, whether it's for their actual application or their mentality or what they should do this coming year to make themselves better? Any advice?
I think number one, get in a clinic. If you are trying to go to vet school in any capacity, you need to be working in a clinic.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have a relationship with a doctor. You need to be asking the questions, watching what they're doing, listening to dosing, listening to explanations of disease processes. Because the more exposure you have now, even if you don't understand it, it's going to click later on.
Yeah, it really helps.
And just having that experience is going to put you higher above anybody else. I remember people in our class who had never given a vaccine before.
Yeah.
And they were in our class.
Or had never touched certain species.
Yeah. And you need to learn restraint. You need to learn how to hold an animal. You need to watch the animal's body language. So get in a clinic and don't be afraid to ask the questions.
Right.
Listen first. So don't ask. There are no stupid questions, but don't ask dumb questions. Listen to what they're saying and really think about it. Read a lot.
Yeah.
Take some time. Quit doom scrolling on social and read about the things that are going to matter and to get into vet school to make you smart. Be up on current events. If they ask you, how does avian influenza impact your community? You need to know the answer to that.
Right.
What does that look like? What does that mean? If you don't know what avian influenza is, get your nose in the newspaper.
Right. I completely agree. Okay. Some students, especially post-COVID, have trouble getting jobs. Sometimes my advice is stop emailing and show up in person. Yeah. Bring your resume, dress professionally. You don't have to wear a suit, but you don't want to be wearing booty shorts. Show up at that clinic. Bring something. Bring some donuts. If the receptionist like you and know you, they're going to be like, hey, to the doctor, you might want to come meet this one. She wants to work for free. That's what I always tell my students. If you are having trouble getting experience, show up in person, maybe 4 clinics in one day. One of them's going to bite. Yeah. If you throw enough darts, one's going to bite, but show up in person, smile, and try to just talk to the doctor. Try not to just stop at the receptionist, because we do get a ton of people coming into our clinic and we don't know who's really going to go the extra mile. We want the person that's going to keep showing up.
Yep.
And just say, look, I am looking for hours. I just want the experience. I just want to watch you. I'll keep my mouth shut, stand in the background and scrub poop off the floor. Be willing to just work for free. And you know what? As soon as someone quits at that clinic, if you have been proving yourself, they're going to call you first before they put an ad in LinkedIn or put a sign on their, website. So that's my advice usually for students is show up in person and do work for free and get on your hands and knees and scrub behind the doctor without having been asked. Do you have any other advice for getting a job?
No, I think that's great. But honestly, the work for free component, we have such a hard time getting good kennel staff. And you mentioned getting on your hands and knees and scrubbing poop. Go in and be prepared to start in the back.
Right.
That's what I know I was young when I did it, but I started in the kennel and then I went to reception, then I went to assistant, and now I'm the doctor. You need to be prepared. Don't think you're too good because you're already in pre-vet. Right. Or because you already worked this position at this other hospital. Maybe they don't have a assistant or tech position at that hospital. Be prepared to start in the back and then prove your worth. Right. Prove who you are, whether that is volunteer position. I know that if someone I think I would rather hire you on as kennel versus work for free, because then at least you're covered under my
Yeah.
employee, benefits, kind
Right.
of
Definitely.
insurance kind of stuff. But be prepared and tell them that.
Yeah.
May not have a technician, spot, but I'd love to work in the back.
Right. Anything you can get your hands on. And look, like this is our field. I know that you have scrubbed poop in the past week. I have.
Yeah.
Okay. So like it's not going anywhere. You're still gonna have to do these dirty jobs. You're gonna get barfed on. You're gonna get peed on like once a day. So get over it, because no one wants like a stuffy employee or someone that feels like higher than the rest. But
Although my staff do know that I don't do poop. They know that.
oh, they do.
I even have my own separate microscope because I don't want to be on the fecal microscope.
No. Oh my God, that's so great. And you're not stuffy at all, so I just love that. That's great.
No,
Everybody has their limit.
I don't like the poop.
Yeah. I got peed on yesterday and the day before. One of them was by
I
my
did
own
2
dog. I
anal
got her
glands
out of the
yesterday.
back, and she just like leaked pee all over me. I was like, all right, well, she's
There
16
it is.
years old. You deserve
It
it.
just happens.
But okay, so any other advice for like people that are filling out their applications, or let's say they're filling out their application, they just graduated and they have a year off before they hopefully potentially start vet school. What would you tell them to do?
Work your tail off.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think that that's your 1 year. Oh, because I'm going to go to vet school next year, I need to go work. I need to take the summer off because it's going to be really hard. You need to go work.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to get in there.
I like it. I completely agree. There are sometimes people that will come and work and they're pre-vet and they think that's what they want to do. But as soon as they see or they get their hands dirty or they realize like our jobs are not what maybe they thought they were, they will change their minds.
Yeah.
And I think
that's okay.
But that's okay. Yeah, it's better now than once you're accepted to vet school and you paid a year or two of tuition.
Yeah.
And so I think getting a job 100% is what I always tell like any high school student, any college student, anybody, get a job. And it's not going to be easy. They're not just giving them out. You have to go seek them out. But
that's why I say you need to be willing to work in something you feel overqualified for.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel overqualified to work in the kennel,
yeah, do it anyway.
Sorry. Do it anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so just to kind of sum up, is there anything that you want to tell our listeners or our readers about?
I would say find a mentor now. Even I think this podcast and this blog, this is a really, really good resource, but you need to find someone in life who you can text with, chat with, mm-hmm. and get mentored all the way, because there's going to be ups and downs.
Right.
When you get that first letter that you got, declined from a vet school, that's going to hurt, and you need someone there to be with you for that. But you also need someone to read, your applications to make sure that you don't sound dumb or you've not put a story in that doesn't make sense. And so find a mentor now, and that person may be a peer your same age.
Right.
That may be one of your doctors that's 30 years older than you. It's probably not going to be your mom, because she's going to think you did the most amazing thing anyways.
Right.
And it's probably going to be your best friend, because they're not going to know vet medicine. But find someone in vet medicine who's willing to be your mentor, and ask them flat out, will you mentor me?
Yes, I think that's fantastic advice. Tell me about the 2 schools in Arkansas.
There's 2 different schools coming to Arkansas. One is going to be at Arkansas State University on the complete other side of the state.
Okay.
And that is going to be a distributive model. I believe their class is set to enroll 2026. The other one is going to be a private college hosted by Lyon College. They already have a private college in Batesville. Okay. They're bringing a dental clinic or a dental school to Little Rock. And then they're having a hard time finding exactly where the vet school is going to go for Lyon College. The last I heard was Cabot, possibly. Okay. I've not seen final plans on that. Both will be distributive models.
What do you mean distributive models? What does that mean?
So a distributive model is different than your current academic model. Current academic was what you described earlier, where your first 2.5 years is academic classroom work, and your last 1 year to 18 months is clinics.
Right.
And on clinics, you might spend 2 to 4 weeks on any given rotation. Right. 2 weeks on cardiology, 2 weeks on dermatology, 2 weeks on ophthalmology, 4 weeks on equine, 4 weeks small animal. In those specific weeks, you were only studying that organ system. So in ophthalmology, you were only learning about eye cases You're seeing eye cases every day with that ophthalmologist. You were diving deep into that. And so the idea is you're not just scratching the surface of ophthalmology, but you're getting a much deeper knowledge base.
Right.
The goal is not for you to always remember it, but to be able to say, I remember something like this. Let me go read about it.
Right.
The distributive model is going to be 2 to 3 years of classroom time. And then 1 year, you are distributed out to the masses, to clinics who have said, I'm going to be a host school for you. And you spend 2 to 4 weeks at that clinic. The difference there is if someone spends 2 weeks with me, they may only see one eye case in that 2-week time span. You might see 4 heart cases, but it might be the exact same thing. All mitral valve disease are all tiny chihuahuas. So there's concern from old school vets like me that if you don't have that really deep dive into that specialty, are you going to have the knowledge base to pull from to make a correct diagnosis later on?
Right.
The new school idea is, hey, these guys are going to go out and find their mentors and find a work-life balance that works for them. And AI is going to help them pull from this. So there's pros and cons of both.
Wow.
And I'm not sure that I can say that either one is absolutely perfect or not perfect.
Right.
I do think that our newer graduates are going to have to rely on artificial intelligence a lot to type in their diagnoses and see what it populates for them. My hope is that they still have the wherewithal to dig in with the history and the physical exam to know what tests to run and not just run the whole gamut.
Right.
Because that's the concern, for old school vets.
And this is what Arizona does. That's what University of Arizona has right now.
There's several.
I didn't know the name, but that's, there's a few. And then of course, like the island schools have always had trouble with clinics. So they have it down. But I completely understand both sides. But the AI part just blows my mind, probably like the internet blew our parents' minds, but I guess it's just all unknown. But I think as far as if you were to get accepted to, let's say 5 schools and you feel strongly about one model, then go with that. But if you get accepted to one school and it's not the model of school that you wanted, I would still just go,
I would go.
And really design your life during your last year and a half and then the time afterwards as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would not ever I would not turn down any 1 year just because of the type of school that is. Tuition may be enough. Because to be honest, if I thought I had a good chance to work 1 year and get in-state tuition at this school or pay out-of-state tuition, for me, it would be worth it to defer by 1 year.
I could see that.
To get in-state tuition. Because honestly, right now, the income to debt ratio for veterinarians is not really what it should be. And so financial burden is a huge strain on veterinarians that compounds on top of compassion
regular
fatigue
stress
and burnout and regular life stress. So I would probably never recommend deferment unless you thought you've got 1 year to really bulk your resume and get you in-state tuition.
Yes, I completely agree. Awesome, Lindy. Well, you have just given us so much actionable advice.
Well, good luck to everybody. I hope you all get in.
So much. We appreciate it.